Hi there, my name is Jim Lewis, Facility Manager at Hatfield Marine Science Center, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the Seawater system here. So located on Yaquina Bay, we have an abundant source of some nice, cold, salty seawater that we pump twice a day. At high tide, an hour and a half before and an hour and a half after. We run through about 1 million gallons a day, and we're going to talk about that process a little bit as we go ahead and see all the individual components. A lot of research that goes on here is dependent on some high saline water. If the salinity is too low or the temperature is too high, this might not work out so well for them. So our target is to have seawater as close as possible as we can to the salinity of the ocean, and with a temperature right around an average of about 10 C is ideal. And we can meet those goals right off our pier that we're going to go out and check out here. So we're out here now on the pier leading out to the pump house, and let's go take a look inside and see where the magic happens. Behind me here are the intake pipes that are down in Yaquina Bay that the water is drawn up through by the pumps and the electric motors that turn them. We currently have 4 lines in the water, 2 of which are allowed to go dormant and anaerobic, while the other 2 are in use. So these strainers keep everything out that the bay might introduce: eelgrass, animals, any kind of marine debris. We haul those out and clean them daily. The secondary filtration happens in the reservoir, where they're filtered by sand filters, and we'll take a look at that in a few minutes. Where we are now is inside the pump house, where we have 4 2,000 GPM pumps, gallons per minute, driven by 50 horse motors that are controlled by a variable frequency drive to maximize our energy efficiency. So a signal is given to a vacuum pump that draws seawater up the intakes from outside to flood the volute and the impeller, which then, once it's full, has a switch that tells the pumps to start. The pumps signal these valves opening and sequencing, and that's how we get the water to the reservoir. So on the left and right here, you'll see these large gray PVC pipes. It's 10-inch PVC pipe, and these are the discharge lines from where the pump has drawn the water out of the bay. It is sent through 2 of these pipes at one time that will take water and send it over to the reservoir, which we can see in the distance. They're above the pier until we get to the causeway, at which point they head underground and make their way to the reservoir. These blind flanges right here on the Ys, the Y fitting, these are for the annual pigging of the lines, where we take a large neoprene bullet-shaped device and stick it into this and turn the water on, and it scours the inside of the pipe for all the accumulated biofouling that the line changes and the hydrogen sulfide haven't killed off. And that happens about once a year. So what we're looking at now is the back of the reservoir, and this is the final termination of where the PVC pipes we saw out on the pier come up out of the ground, and they're introduced into the 4 chambers of our 800,000 gallon reservoir. This water again is pumped twice a day at peak high water, and it's going to live here for between 8 and 20 hours before it's fully cycled through and sent on to its final destination throughout the Science Center. So now, we talked about how the water gets into the reservoir. Let's talk a little bit about how the water gets out of the reservoir. So where we are now, this is the pumping operation, the pushing side of the water. We draw it out of the bay, force it up into the reservoir. Now we're going to force it out into the individual user locations throughout the Marine Science Center. What we have on our left are big blue Neptune Benson sand filters that have several different types of media into them. That water's continually filtered, and these filters are backwashed twice a day to remove any of the heavy particulate at a rate of about 50 micron is the level of filtration that we have. So on the right side, we have our distribution side. The pumps currently here run 24/7. Again, we have 100% redundancy. We'll run 2 of each at a time, depending on where they're going. They serve several government agencies around here: the EPA, NOAA Alaska Fisheries Group, ODF&W, and Sea Grant. Those filters trap a lot of natural settleable solids out of the bay. Twice a day we do a backwash of those filters to separate all that material, and that lands behind me now in this settling basin where the discharge of water will make its way back to the bay. Here's an example of a delivery point of some of the seawater we use here. Currently this water is used for rearing algae to feed oysters. So this is our chlorination treatment center. So the influent water here is water that researchers no longer need, and this is the beginning. It's entry into the seawater chlorine treatment facility. So it enters this treatment chamber through this weir and is sent through this pass-through chamber where the volume is viewed. The amount of chlorine is dosed based on the volume of water going through. That chlorine is actually water we make with an electrochlorination device that was made for us from a company in Louisiana. It lives right here. We don't store bulk chemical as we used to, we manufacture it. So this device here will make a 3.5–4% solution of chlorine 24/7 at a rate of about 5 GPM. And it costs us about $200 a month to run rather than $2,000 a month for bulk sodium hypochlorite. Once our effluent seawater is treated with sodium hypochlorite to cook any pathogens or non-native species out of it, we return it back into the bay, but not before we give it a shot of sodium bisulfite. That sodium bisulfite neutralizes the sodium hypochlorite, and it goes back into the bay in better shape than we got it.